Hey everyone, and welcome back to You Are Free TV. I'm airing this on Thursday, February 29th, 2024. I have a great surprise for you here today. I have a real rocket scientist, amazing, brilliant woman, Shehnaz Soni. And she also is an incredible author and a quantum healer. And she's going to talk about what that means today. So I'm just going to welcome her right in. I did an interview with Shehnaz. Gosh, it's been almost 4 years now, I think, ago. Hi, welcome in.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Free, for this opportunity. You're right. It has been a while. It's like when you live in a quantum world, you don't really keep track of time.
It keeps spiraling around, doesn't it? Touching back in various places and spaces. So I'm going to jump right in, Shehnaz, and just have you tell us what you do. You're a rocket science with NASA. You're an aerospace engineer, and you're working
Yes.
on the Artemis Moon project. And this is huge.
Yes.
A lot of people are so curious about this.
So the word Artemis is because it's a twin sister of Apollo. So we had Apollo series going on right in 1969 onwards, and now we are starting the Artemis series, which we only did Artemis 1 launch by launching the Space Launch System rocket. And we are working towards Artemis 2 right now, which is going to happen in 2025. And then the Artemis 3 onward is the mission that I'm part of. These are all manned missions, which means that we do have men, astronauts flying in the craft. And then all of these missions are all about living on a moon, not just for one day. The first one is for 1 week, and then it's keeps building on top of it with more and more days because we are getting ourselves ready to learn to live on a moon so we can colonize moon and then use moon as a layover to colonize Mars.
Yes, yes, that's quite the plan, right? And so Odyssey did just land on the moon, yes? And
Yeah,
what's
you're
your
talking
take?
about they call it the intuitive machine, which I think is very interesting because that shows the convergence of right and left hemisphere.
Interesting. Interesting. That is very interesting. Can you explain more what you mean by that?
So basically, I'm just saying that the word for that unmanned lander that just landed on the dark side of the moon today, it happened today or yesterday, but the whole reason, yeah, it was yesterday. The whole reason we're doing that is to open the door for commercial alliances, right? So that is a commercial product, and we're going to have a lot of commercial lunar payload um, landing on the moon, because in order to create a sustainable environment for human to live, we're going to have to create a mechanism for the basic things like water. So we are doing this on like a incremental way to start the colonization process. And the very fact that this particular lander, the name, because yesterday when my colleague sent out the information and I said, my God, what a name, because it says intuitive machine. And then I said that that's quite a name. And he said, yeah, just like artificial intelligence is quite a name. Because if you
Mm,
think about it, there's that connotation where you are mixing man with the machine. Because intuitive is the word that you use for human beings, not for a machine. But they're
right.
calling that intuitive machine.
That's really interesting. And so what would they say is its intuitive part? Because it's basically it's just an AI machine, right? I mean, that's what it
Right, right.
is.
And
It's
I haven't read up on that particular lander by any means, but I do believe that they're calling it because they must have written a software program that makes it do some of the functions that we categorize as intuition.
interesting. Okay. Okay, great. Well, and so now when you have contracted with SpaceX and you've worked that's because of the whole Artemis project, right? And do you find that what's your this is just a stab in the dark out there, but what's your take on Elon Musk? There's so much going on right now, and this is just a short aside. We're going to get right back to the other more interesting stuff. But I would love to hear your opinion because you really are in both sides of the world with your intuitive work that you have with Ashes to Sona, with the quantum healing and your book, The Quantum Being, and then you work in this very technological world and you it seems like you are trying to bridge the gap, but also like you said, the two hemispheres of the brain, but also there's a third thing that comes out of all of this, and it's not just the transhumanist robotics, post-human. It is something different and greater, possibly to do with what humans are supposed to do in evolving, right? And so I would just love to hear, a tiny tidbit on Musk, what you think his intentions are in all of this, because it's an intense thing, colonizing the moon, colonizing Mars, right? It's a powerful word, colonizing. But so yeah, I'll shut up and let you talk.
So first of all, I had a I had a privilege to work as a software subject matter expert on Falcon 9 rocket, which is a SpaceX product. And that rocket basically was kind of enabled us to no longer be dependent on the Russian Soyuz rocket for International Space Station astronaut to go back and forth between Earth and International Space Station. So that's when I started working with SpaceX as a NASA contractor, and I had to go and visit their site in Hawthorne, California, which is where they actually, the team was, where I was basically verifying the software. And I was very much impressed with, because I have been in many different aerospace company myself. And when I visited the SpaceX facility, it was really something out of the sci-fi movie. The inside of the building was just everybody, majority of the people. First of all, one thing that you're going to notice when you go to at least that facility, the people are all like above 25 and under 40.
Hmm.
So there is that age span that you see. So you pretty much see majority of the people really young. Okay, most of them are kind of in the early 30s. So that's the demographic that I saw, which was interesting. The second thing I noticed, half the people were on rollerblades. Right.
Right.
The third thing I noticed was that when you go to like any kind of drink station, you can have anything you want, any kind of coffee, any kind of smoothie, all free.
Yeah, sound like the Google plan.
Right. The other thing I noticed was that even the food was incredible, and it's only $5 you pay for food, no matter how much you eat. So the thing is, and then the other thing was that they had this incredible music in the cafeteria. So, and then every time when you're taking the elevator, you see all these mock-ups of Batman and like just really, and then they have all these places where young kids are just brainstorming and they have a whiteboard and they're doing it. So the point of the story is that just the way he is carrying that energy, which is so unique, right? I've been to many, many different companies and buildings and all of that, and none of them speaks like what he has created in the SpaceX. And everybody would want to work there only because the environment is extremely like you just don't want to ever even have any kind of life. Because we were having a meeting at 8 p.m. at night, and people are just like they're like low because all you can eat is there, all you can drink is there, the amazing environment. So nobody wants to go home. They probably just go home to sleep. So that's about the culture I noticed. As far as Elon Musk goes, the reason I'm so sure that we're going to colonize Moon and Mars is because of Elon Musk, because NASA depends on the budget that comes from the Congress. Whom does Elon Musk depend on?
DARPA.
Himself, for the most part. I
Well,
mean, he's
our
created
taxpayer dollars, I will throw in there.
That is true. That is true. I'm sure because he's kind of like high there on the richest man. But the thing is that because he doesn't have as much of a direct dependency as NASA has, because NASA is a civil servant, right? I mean, when you work directly for NASA, what are you called? Civil servant. That's the reason I'm a contractor. So the point of the story is because I don't want to be called by servant by anyone. But the whole story is that I do believe that like some trigger happened in Elon Musk's life where he was given some sort of crossroad decision and he chose to be the person who's going to do what he's doing, right? Because he has done an incredible amount of things in his last 20 years. Like anybody who's watching his expedited growth and expedited multiplication and expedited family, even like he's spreading his DNA all over the world. So he's truly on a mission, right? I do believe that technologically he has taken that leadership position. There's things that I have personally observed, like working with their team in SpaceX, that I really liked working with them. So there are goodness there. Just like everything else have a pros and cons, we truly don't know what's behind the curtain. As far as I can tell you, he uses everything that I have learned in the mystery school teaching in how he runs the show.
That's very interesting and not surprising. And creating an immersive culture is, it has its you could say it's great for brainstorming, right? But then it's also maybe without enough outside influence or outside energy or connection, that there also could be maybe devoid of some ethical issues, or this kind of thing. And it's for science, right? But we've learned, and I assume that you've learned this, and you know what assuming does, but that with your writing the quantum being, and knowing that there's a cohesive energy in the universe, and how important ethical morality is in all of it. um, I think that is my concern when you see just the crossover of, Starlink, can be used for good or for bad, being used for a lot of bad, right? And, there's all this stuff of the exercising of technology where, do we build it because we can, when implications are bad, for what could happen with it, and then also so good. And it's that timeless question, right? Of, I just want to stick with space here, not get into Elon Musk's other endeavors and what he's building technologically, and China and all the issues there with the slavery, and the access to batteries made by slave labor. All of it, it's troubling, So this is the issue. So I guess what I would love to hear is, how do you see us ethically colonizing space, and why do you believe that that is a positive thing?
I think that ultimately, as a human species, and pretty much any conscious being, for the most part, when you are on a quest to evolve, because we as a human species are on a quest to evolve, right? So that is one of our goals. Wherever we are, we wanna always figure out that what else can we do. We are not supposed to park ourselves in one space and time and just play whatever, right? Play Dorothy, or play Betty, or whatever the names are. But the point
Tiddlywinks.
is, exactly. So the whole thing is that, to me, that is a better place to put your evolution mindset in, than spending all your energy on fighting among each other, right? So if I have to choose, like, because we are intelligent species, and if we don't do anything, then what are we going to do, right? So to me, like right now, and the other reason is that we have heard a lot of things about secret space, and we've heard a lot of things about what really moon is, or what really Mars is. So at the end of the day, the very fact that in this 3D reality, we are willing to actually go there, it's going to help us answer question one way or the other. Because if whatever we've heard is actually really true, then it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to get played out. Just think about it, right? So in both
Absolutely.
cases, we're going to get some answer that's going to lift the curtain. It's going to lift the veil. And I'm all about lifting the veil, because to me, that's like I'm a kid in a candy shop lifting veils in my own life, right? Because we are here not to understand others. We are here to understand ourselves. And
Mhm.
how do we do that? Is by playing in the playground in a way that doesn't hurt other people. And I have been given so much choices, because I've worked both in the industry of defense and commercial space. And I always choose working on commercial space, because I feel like at least I'm putting my talent in something that's called space exploration, and not about earth destruction.
Sure, sure. And so, we're going to segue here in a couple of minutes, because I want to make sure that we get to talk about the incredible philosophy within your book. Well, that's the scientific realities, and the combining it in the quantum being with with spiritual unfoldment, right? As well as its connection to understanding physics, and how those two are, like you said, it's the opposite of humans playing tiddlywinks. It's understanding, I would say, as as Christ said, know thyself, that we're supposed to understand deeper and deeper and deeper more who we are, so that we can go to the next level, and we become creative beings on a different scale, right? And that's I think God's mission for us, right? And so I would love for you to, well, a couple things before we move in there. I would love to hear first the situation. I want to talk about plasma and space, right? And the situation of space travel, because, people always push back, how can we trap, like, if it's not wormholes, and, or, some kind of warp speed technology, or, Star Trek style, or, don't we hit this plasma field? Once you get out of Earth's orbit, there's a plasma field, according to a lot of physicists, and the question is, how does regular technology do that? Are we looking at the kind of materials that are able to shift in time and space? Are we looking at that level of technology that is able to go into a totally different medium? And I don't have your beautiful rocket scientist language, so I'll try to say, my little bit about it. But do we have that high amount of technology that can shift and morph into a plasma field to get to Mars? Do you believe in the plasma field theory, or how do you feel this trip to Mars goes in plain speaking terms? And also on that, the situation with, didn't we just get a little helicopter drone that just got banged down in Mars the other day?
Yeah, no, I didn't read up on that, but I'm sure it did. So yeah, plasma is a very interesting word, right? Because we have plasma in our blood, right? So plasma is kind of a foundation of who we are. We can see plasma in the field. Now, when you're talking about plasma in terms of a travel, I would say that plasma, the definition and the word is different to different people. Okay. So I want to make sure that I am not sure exactly when you are talking about plasma, what the definition is. I would say that plasma is a signature that some of the craft actually creates, the craft that are from different part of the world. That's how I think of plasma. Plasma to me is an energy residual signature that gets left behind when the crafts um, that are kind of driven by other species are come in and out of our reality. Now, this is my personal statement. Of course, NASA would not make that statement, or NASA. I'm not speaking for NASA. I'm speaking just with my own intuition that I have felt it, I've seen it, I have interacted with it, right? So I'm coming from that point of view. Now, as far as the travel goes in the 3D world, going to moon and going to Mars, a lot of people have this huge thing about Van Allen belt, right? How are we going to cross that and all of that? So I have multiple answers for that. One of them is that we actually discovered the Van Allen belt because of doing the space exploration. Nobody knew about it until we did it, right? So a lot of time people have this thing where they take part of the story and not the whole story, right? So it's like, so I want to educate people that a lot of these words that we even use nowadays came about because we have been on this quest. And we are not, this is not something new we are doing it. We have been working on space travel since 1950. This is not something that we're doing it today. And we also went to the moon, and there's something happened, which is the reason we didn't go to the moon for 50 years. So there's all that story that truly I don't know personally. I can give you my assessment based on being in the industry, but truly I cannot say that I know for sure, because actually nobody knows for sure unless because it was deliberately kept hidden, because it's connected with a lot bigger truth. You see, because when you have wrapped um, a lie in a truth. You know how they say that's called the definition of manipulation, right? When you do that, then there is cascading effect, because then you have to protect that lie in a way that it doesn't come out, because so it's just way bigger than going to moon and Mars, right? So I'm just going to say that because of that, we have that question is like, okay, let's just go bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
Why was NASA created on the first place? So there are lots of questions there. But so coming back to the whole thing about travel and space travel and all of that, we have been in connection with star beings. It could be that we are in connection with people who are um, ourselves from future communicating with us, because we have technology for all of that. We actually had technology for all of that in the early 1900s. So the point of the story is that this gets very, very much like we live in a sci-fi movie. Our reality is a sci-fi. So people will have to start asking a bigger question rather than the smaller question, because those questions are almost becoming like tape recording thing. Like, okay, you know what? Let's move away from it. Let's look at it from a much larger perspective.
I love this. And so what is the bigger question in your mind? And I think this will bring us into the quantum being, and if you could, you just said we need to ask the bigger questions, and it seems like in your work and also in your healing work, these are, there's that overreach into what are the larger questions about this next leap that humanity is about to do with space travel, and also how that interrelates with your studies in quantum healing.
Yeah, it
And if you
does.
don't
And
mind, I'm going to put you on full screen when you go full bore into this, because I know you can talk on this subject, and I get really excited about listening to you.
yes, and you're 100% right. Actually, the answer to the question that you just asked, I was saying, goes back to who are we? Because if you understand who are we, then we can understand the soup that we are in, right? Because you are a potato and there is a soup. So it's all converge together, right? Because we are the universe seeking to understand ourselves. That's the bottom line message. And when you understand that you are a conscious being who is interconnected with everything that you create every nanosecond, when you understand that dance between you and everything there is, then you are going to understand that what part of you are hiding from yourself, because that is what is replicated in the form of NASA not telling us the truth, or in the form of president not telling us the truth, or in the form of what's happening globally, because as above so below. So I would say that just like our cell, we are made of trillions of cells, right? So our cell in our human body, all these cell makes us representative for all these organisms. Because if you really look at us, we're more virus than human. We technically are a conglomeration of a virus, but we create this consciousness, this soul that connects all of them like a chain, right? And we speak for our human craft. That is the similar, you connect all these billions of human beings and it becomes Earth, right? So Earth becomes a representation of human craft. The thing about Earth is that Earth doesn't just have human, there's other species with us. Whether you consider insect as other species or whether you consider Palladian as other species, that's completely your perspective, because it's all a perspective, right? We give labels and names and all that stuff to each other. So the point of the story is that because of this as above, so below fractal holographic reality that we live in and we breathe in and we interact with, every single thing that we see outside of us is kind of a projection of what's going on inside of us. So the way we're going to answer this question first is we're going to have to become really honest with ourselves first. And the very first thing that I want everybody to be honest about is, why are we so hung up on living a life through only seeing the tip of the iceberg? Why are we not really recognizing that what is choreographing all of that in the background? And that is the reason I did the book, The Quantum Being, right? Because the quantum being basically explains that we are the quantum being. At the subatomic level, we're all the same. So why are we wasting time fighting for land and fighting for territory and fighting for religion and fighting for different sexual orientation or fighting for race? All of that to me is really a waste of time and waste of energy. It's time that we actually all go inside of ourselves and start recognizing, because the pain that we carry is the love you withhold. Alex Collier said that. And I quoted that in my book because I love it. And I changed that quote by saying that the fear that we carry is the love we withhold. So at the end of the day, we all have to take responsibility of the fact that we are not just living in a physical dimension. Because, physical dimension is because we can sense, with all our senses, we can sense, right? We can sense of touch, sense of smell, sense of hearing, sense of sight, and sense of taste. Those are physical, but we can also feel, which means that we're emotional being. We can also think, which means we're a mental being. We can also look at the forest versus the tree, which means we're a spiritual being. So when we start recognizing the fact that we ourselves is an incredible human craft who is a multi-layer species. So let's first accept our own power. And because we are so incredibly amazing, why would we not think that there are other species who are equally amazing or even more amazing? Because you know what? That is just the way the universe is. Universe is intelligent because it's our creation.
Hmm. Beautiful. Absolutely. And it's like you said, it makes perfect sense when you really be truthful, with your with what you hear inside yourself, right? And how we, like you said, once you look at yourself, then you can see your relationship to every single other thing that's happening around you, good, bad, and different, right? But especially in that good bad dichotomy, where we get caught up on us versus them and all of these ridiculous delineations of labels on ourselves. Give us an example of how in quantum healing you would approach a situation of where people are dealing with discord or suffering from trauma, that's a huge one, right? And how we approach that on the quantum level.
So I actually have this light body activation technique that I teach and I use on my daily life. And if you really look at it, it's basically it's grounding, except that I put another layer on top of it based on everything I've learned in the mystery school. So to me, the trauma is something that the reason like, it's funny. I'll give you this example. One of the girl, because I'm getting 100 emails every day since that next level soul interview. One of the girl said this email saying that she has been carrying this kidney stone for a very long time. And in her email, she said that I have doctors who wants to perform a surgery on me, but I don't want them to do that because, and then she mentioned, and I don't want to go too much into detail, but right after, because she mentioned exactly the trauma that she has, right? So of course, when she asked me that, when the email came, and I was like, I generally have my method to the madness to deal with all these emails that I'm getting, but I just could not hold myself. So I respond back to her right away. And my response to her was that the question you're asking, you have already answered it. What do you want me to do? The fact that you want to stay connected with your trauma is the reason your kidney stones are not going to leave you. So the point of the story with the trauma is that people who are holding trauma, I'm sure if they're holding trauma, they have some sort of chronic disease going on in their system. To me, autoimmune disease and all of these labels, because I have gotten many labels in my life, and those labels are because of the trauma that we are holding within our body. And at the end of the day, we have to really see, because it's interesting, because when you really become so I'm becoming a level 1 hypnosis. I just have to take the exam under Dolores Cannon, because I wanted to understand the whole hypnosis and make sense out of it. And the bottom line message, and I always knew that, but taking the training has confirmed with me, listening to somebody who actually did that for a living for decades, is that in one instant, which is called quantum healing, because I can give you the hypnosis session, and in that session we can completely turn off that bit that is creating that trigger in your life, trauma, and you can be completely trauma free. But the fact that you even show up on the table to do that speaks volume, right? So what I'm saying is that, and then based on the quantum healing, right, you can decide how you want to heal. So some people like to go to the hospital and spend 1 week there and heal. If you have to choose between that versus if I say that go on a retreat or do light body activation every day and you can get the same result, wouldn't you want to at least have a choice on how you are going to heal yourself?
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. Yes.
Then we all have that choice. The only reason we have such a messed up system and insurance and pharmacy and drugs and hospital is partly because we allowed it in our lives.
Yes.
It's like we
Yes.
have fast food. We allowed it in our lives. So what I'm saying is the trauma represents all of that. And the day we said that, what, I don't want to live like that. I think everybody who's listening to this, if they tell themselves right now, even just say, I no longer want to live in a trauma. I want to transform this trauma into triumph. As soon as they're going to say that, even if they can just use that as an affirmation, that I am transforming that trauma to triumph. Based on quantum.
What's the word that transforming trauma to what?
Triumph, like TRUIMPH, right? What's the spelling? The how do you pronounce that? Like
I can't make it out. I don't know why, because I want to.
Really?
Something with, I think I'm having a little bit of a.
For you, because I like you to pronounce that, because that's what came to me right now, and I may not be spelling it right, but just read it. You see that in the chat?
No, it's not showing up. Oddly.
Okay, so I did send it to you.
Okay.
Anyway, but the point is that change yourself from victim to victor. Okay, so you can use that word. I'm
trauma to triumph.
Myself.
Triumph?
Yeah.
Triumph. Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
That's what I mean, because I'm just playing with the words,
yeah,
right?
No, it's lovely.
There's so much similarity, but one gives you so much power and the other one takes the power away. Because the power we seek is the power within. That's my slogan in my book all over the place. And what I'm telling people is that when you decide that you no longer want to live like that, it doesn't matter what your state is, whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you're bedridden, you have to say to yourself, I no longer accept that. I'll give you one example. When I was in 2019, fully quarantined in the hospital because they couldn't even diagnose my disease. And I basically at that time, they had completely kept everybody away from me because nobody could come to me because I was a contagion. And then, they tagged me with trigeminal neuralgia. And there was just 4 or 5 labels they gave me, and I was in like 4 or 5 prescription pills. And I was in excruciating pain on my right side at all times, like really bad. Like, so I actually told myself that I'm not interested in taking these pills. I'm not interested in dealing with this pain. And I had this talk, like, come to Jesus with myself. I said, you know what? I'm not going to live like this. So either I die or either I become better. There's just no other option. And I said that to myself every single day when I woke up, because it was all about do or die. And it took me, a lot of courage and help. I mean, and it was just me helping myself because I didn't have anybody taking care of me. But I was in so much pain that every 10 minutes I had to heat up the pad in the microwave oven, because if I wouldn't have the pad right next to me wrapped fast enough, the pain would get to the point where it would hurt to the bones, right? So it was a very hard life for me. And I'm telling you, I prayed really hard. And what I'm telling is that when you are in the do or die place, your fire is going to transform you.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love that you mentioned prayer, because, earlier you're talking about love frequency, and you mentioned prayer. There's all these different realms of how we connect with divinity, or divine frequency, you could say, or divine consciousness. And, that is the power that Jesus said we are supposed to have, right? Is that ability to heal, including ourselves. That's specifically huge, right? When it came to Jesus, he was like, you're going to learn to heal, and you're going to do great things greater than I've ever done, right? And it sounds like you just had that experience for yourself. And I would love if you could explain that in a quantum level, where, you said earlier that, we have this fractal holographic universe, right? Fractacular. And it's basically this creating this hologram constantly every second, as we're computing everything that's coming through us, and then we're projecting it out, right? Literally. And it's happening on a quantum entanglement level. Yes. And I was wondering if you could talk about that part for people to grok how that is, what that is, in connection with what you just said about healing yourself.
Right. So,
and I know we're getting down here. We only have a few minutes left. I want to hear about where to get your book and your healing and your healing sessions, all of that. So
so we are a programmable human craft, okay, which is the most important thing for everybody to know, because we have already proven ourselves that we have this double helix DNA, which is kind of our commodity, but that gets triggered based on epigenetics, right? In terms of how and what protein we create and what body parts we create and how we heal ourselves. So if you really think about it, the entire decoding that we have within our DNA is more complex and intricate than any machinery ever invented by human species. So that speaks volume for itself, is that we have this built-in machine that is continuously doing the work. So we are like, so if people can understand that in context to everything, right? So when you know that you are so powerful that you can mess up your life and you can make life better at the same time. So the food that we eat, right, becomes part of our DNA. So when you eat food and when you think of the fact that what type of protein do I want to create, just think about that. As soon as you ask that question, you're going to be like, oh my God, I don't want to have this food that I don't want to create a protein which has like a layer of visceral fat all over my body. You see my point? Right there, based on quantum physics, you have changed your entire reality now. And that's why it's faster than taking any pills, faster than doing any workout, because it's all about consciousness affecting momentum. And that's what I teach. And that's what I share in my book, because to me, I'm going beyond, because, when you're solving a problem, it's like, we are living in a 3D and we have a problem that's in 2D, and you're solving the problem in a 2D. Why would you not use the fact that you have a 3D perspective? I'm saying, let's go to a higher perspective. We live in a 3D, but we are not a 3D craft. We are a multidimensional craft. And with multidimensionality does come a responsibility, does come the awareness, and does come the expansion. So if I decide that I'm no longer interested in dialing a channel where I am in pain, then one way or the other, I'm going to exit the channel. But I have to first recognize it. Like you said, trauma, right? You have to recognize whatever baggage you have, because we all have baggages. Once you recognize it, then you have to decide, do you want to stay in it or do you not? Because that's a binary choice. Right. And as soon as you say that I no longer want to dial the channel because it just wears me out, it stresses me out, it makes me feel sick, it makes me feel sad, then what you have to do is you have to come up with the exit strategy, of course. And that's another thing I teach. But what I would say, just to make it general, is that choice, your choice of not interested in dialing that channel is important for you to open another portal, another light to come through. And to
Mm.
me, I look at space travel, having an option to live on a moon and Mars is just another framework to operate from, because it will expand us no matter what the moon and Mars is.
And in your experience, you believe that with the advent of the space travel, that we will be in consistent contact with species from other worlds?
100%, because they're already populating these places. Yes.
Uh-huh. They're already on the moon. You think that's why we didn't go back?
Yeah.
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 Oh, don't bury the lead there. That's a biggie. Awesome. I love it. Okay, look, so I know we only have a few minutes left. You've got to go. Where do we get your beautiful book, and how do people come to do sessions with you for quantum healing?
Yeah. So basically, my website has all the information. The book, The Quantum Being, is on Amazon. So just go on Amazon and type The Quantum Being, you'll get the book. If you type my name, which is shehnazsoni.com, so you can see my name is listed right there.
And
Just
it'll be linked below as well, for sure.
and then basically, I have a one-on-one coaching. I'm still offering 30 minutes and 1 hour with me, where it's complete one-on-one. Also, I have digital products where I create training courses. Like I have light body activation, quantum manifestation. So you can buy it if you want. I also have, people are coming to me. They want me to teach these things. So I'm going to be teaching it. So you can sign up in my email. And that way you are aware of it. The other thing I want to do free is I want to go to the sacred site and do light body activation there, because with our DNA, combined with the ley line of the sacred site, we can truly create a magic for Earth and for everybody. So
Absolutely.
that's my dream. Yes.
Beautiful. And what was the quote, Carol Burnett? If you have a dream, grab onto it and never let go. Isn't that Carol Burnett
Actually,
said
yeah.
that?
And I would say that don't even grab onto it. I would say imagine it and live it every day, because you can create a quantum step to live part of the dream. To me, like talking to you about my dream is part of living my dream.
Absolutely. And that consciousness is the destination, right? That you have to have the destination in your consciousness, but you have to live as if you're on your way or already
That is
there.
true, because journey is intertwined with the destination.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Look, I know you need to go. Thank you so much. This has been so interesting. I can't wait to do it again. So I'll hit you up in a couple months and see if you're available. I can't wait to hear all the great news coming down for humanity. And I'd love to have this focus on the positive and the possible, and knowing that we are the ones in charge of our destiny. So thank you.
100%.
Thank you so much, Shehnaz. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Have a
Take
great
care.
rest of your day. And to
You
everybody out
too.
there, you are free, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, Free.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the show on You Are Free TV today. Just a quick interruption here to talk about C60 Evo, my sponsor. If you go to c60evo.com /YAFTV and use the code YAFTV, you'll get 10% off. And I'm able to give 2 bottles away every month to people to contribute to the channel through a raffle, a random number raffle. And also you get 15% off if you contribute to the channel, and that's sent to you in a separate email with a different code. So I'm doing a short series here of Q&As with Chris Burris over at C60 Evo, the chief scientist there and co-founder of C60 Evo. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Free, great to see you. I've got my bottle here. I'm always prepared, and we're so happy to be supporting your show.
Well, you know how I love the capsules. I just love the mixture of that gelatin with the organic olive oil in there. It works wonders for me. And so I just wanted to ask you a quick question today.
All right, shoot, I'm ready.
All right. The question is this. Okay, knowing that C60 Evo, the ESS60 molecule, goes through the blood-brain barrier, what are the benefits of that, and how does that happen?
Yeah, well, first off, it's very often the case that people are nervous when something gets through the blood-brain barrier, because the purpose of the blood-brain barrier is typically
For sure.
say that 50 times real fast. Is typically to prevent viruses and bacteria, so larger molecules, larger organisms from getting into the brain, because you don't want them up there, right? The brain's kind of important for everything we do. So often the medical community is like, oh, this crosses the blood-brain barrier, like this might be of concern. We've done other shows, we've done other kind of conversations about the benefits that the ESS60 molecule can provide. And this is the theory, the boss theory, can provide to the mitochondria. It is so mitochondria, the powerhouse of every cell. Typically, a cell in your body has between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria, but nerve cells and brain cells actually have 2 million mitochondria because they
Wow.
use so much of our energy. So we know that this molecule, this ESS60 molecule, gets into the mitochondria, and we know that it improves. Well, the current theory is that it improves the efficiency of that molecule. So as that molecule, as that mitochondria is going about its job of generating energy for your neurons, it's spitting off some reactive oxygen species. This ESS60 molecule can sit there and help buffer that oxidative element, so the reactive oxygen species, and make sure that it's not running around doing oxidative damage. I think it's pretty clear you probably don't want oxidative damage in your brain. Like, that's not something that is good for you. And in fact, to be able to buffer it and wait until that mitochondria can replenish, can manage that oxidative element, that's what's really important. And that's what we think we're doing with this ESS60 molecule. Now, just to add, our most consistent testimonial is people take it in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. All of those are so incredibly brain focused that probably if we couldn't get through the blood-brain barrier, we wouldn't see those benefits.
Oh, that last bit's really interesting. Yes, of course. And, knowing that women have a typically thicker blood-brain barrier, that doesn't make a difference, right? It's so small, it gets right in there.
Yeah, absolutely. You think about the blood-brain barrier as kind of a cellular barrier, and remember that our molecule is so small, it's working on a subcellular level, right? So there's all sorts of marketing. Oh, this works at a cellular level. Okay, whoop-de-doo. This actually works at a subcellular level.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. And, for people that, we know with the long COVID, a lot of folks are really suffering from the brain fog and a lot of neurological disorders are showing up. And so it's real important to get something that will get into the neurons, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And when you start addressing, the key things that we know we're addressing, one of them is the oxidation. So I talked about that a little bit relative to the mitochondria. And then again, we've got to be careful what we say about inflammation, but certainly we address specific types of inflammation.
Awesome. Thanks for that answer. And I hope that helps you out there, everyone in the audience. And we'll be back again with more Q&A with Chris at C60 Evo.